Are fearing the worst for a dissident journalist from Belarus who was taken into custody after his flight from Greece to Lithuania, two democracies, was essentially hijacked and then forced to land by a Belarusian fighter jet. CNN's Nick Paton Walsh takes us on an exclusive look at the death of another activist, a different activist, a death that suggests abuse. And we caution you, Nick's report contains images and details you will definitely find disturbing.
Plane hijacking may rage above, but daily abuse in Belarus looks like this. This day's doddering figure is opposition activist Witold Ashurok, said police. He falls into the toilet, it seems, without anyone touching him in this edited surveillance footage from last week, supplied by the Belarusian authorities, who were eager to show they helped a 50-year-old prisoner. But here, again, they show him bandaged, and he again seems too weak to stand. His relatives say they met Witold healthy just weeks earlier, but they were initially told he died of a cardiac arrest. But here is his body at his funeral Wednesday, his head bandaged. It doesn't look just like natural causes. Outside they gather, the family burying him without being able to get an independent examination. The truth stolen from them, even in death.
As a human being, I don't believe that a man's heart just stopped, that he fell and killed himself. I really want to get to the bottom of it. In these conditions, it seems impossible to have an independent examination.
He was arrested in August, protests against the fraudulent electoral victory declared by President Alexander Lukashenko. In January, he was sentenced to 5 years for allegedly organising protest and attacking a police officer. Jubilant here in court, the crowd chanting, "Shame."
The reaction of the international community.
The opposition's leader in exile called for a new stage in the protest movement today, meeting European officials, and earlier expressed her admiration for Ashurok.
I admire his strength of spirit and faith in the correctness of his choice, but I am very hurt by the fact that he paid with his life. Now that we have woken up, it has become our duty to bring the matter to an end.
When Roman Protasevich feared for his life for leaving the plane forced down in Minsk, it's perhaps Ashurok's fate and these scenes from a police station last year that he had in mind. Brutality in custody is commonplace in the aftermath of protests. Demonstrators forced to face the wall, beaten, they said here, and one left motionless on the floor. And while actual deaths have been rare so far, the death penalty remains in force. And the fate of Witold Ashurok, something Belarus's police perhaps hoped would pass without notice, now held up as a warning to the opposition not to act, but also to the international community that it must.
Now, this kind of abuse, Jake, persistent as it is, it has been extraordinary, frankly, to observe how consistently violent the Belarusian police have been over the past months since those August protests. It is certainly on the US government's radar here. In fact, the day after Mr. Ashurok lost his life in prison, Ned Price, the State Department spokesperson, said he condemned the increasingly repressive tactics of the Lukashenko regime and referred to how Mr. Ashurok had died while unjustly detained. We heard today from President Lukashenko a rambling speech in which he promised, frankly, tougher measures against protests. But the isolation referred to, frankly, as becoming the North Korea of Europe by the opposition leader today, that is just, it seems, going to make the repression worse and probably push Belarus closer economically, certainly at first, to its overbearing eastward neighbour Russia, Jake.